most of the people, they'll clear mains because they're strong in current affairs. It's not they're strong in subject. In polity, GS paper 2, we have 3 subjects. One is polity, governance, and the other one is, of course, social justice and international relations. 80 to 90% of the questions will be current affair based. If you're good in current affairs, last 1 year current affairs, you can get 100 marks out of 250. Okay, and getting 100 marks is not an easy thing. Now don't think from your academics point of view, sir. No, in academics I got 230 out of 250. But in UPSC, if you score 50 marks, 50% of the marks, you'll be the first ranker. It's not that much easy to score marks. Okay. And in GS paper 3, GS paper 3 consists of which subjects? Randomly you tell something, I'll choose from that. Economy, environment, disaster management, another one, science and technology, other subject, internal security. And even in this paper, GS paper 3, 80 to 90% question will be current affair based. And even subjects like public administration, political science, even to a certain extent, I think sociology. Leave history, other subjects also will have something to do with current affairs. So never leave your newspaper reading. Now you can say, no, sir, we are getting materials, lot of materials we are getting, and even in websites, we can get a lot of current affair material. So why to read newspapers? No material can stimulate a thought in your mind. Only newspaper can do that. Because that is what the first-hand information. When you read articles, particularly the editorial page, if you do it consistently for 1 month or 2 months, surely you will develop an individual thinking skills. That cannot be done through a material. Surely it cannot be done through a material. You have to read at least the editorial page, 8th page and the 9th page in Hindu. Some students, they read 2 newspapers. One complete newspaper, they'll take it and they'll just focus on editorial pages of the Indian Express of Delhi edition. Indian Express of Delhi edition is very good compared to any other paper, because the Delhi edition, they focus, it is written for civil aspirant mostly. So some articles you can find there. These 2 papers are very much important and you have to read. Okay, and without reading current affairs, it's very hard, boss. UPSC. Prelims, in prelims also, out of 100 questions, 40 to 45% questions will be current affair related. So you should leave current affairs. That is very much important part. Okay. Open this page. March 10th current affairs. Yesterday, one person asked me a question before leaving, how to link current affairs with public administration. How you link? How you will link? Anyone? Good. If you know the syllabus of public administration, then you can link a particular article which appeared in the newspaper. So the first thing which you have to do is you have to mug up the syllabus. Yes, you have to by heart literally. How many of you by hearted your GS syllabus? If I ask you what is there in internal security, how many of you can clearly say the subtopics of it? How many of you came here to read Hindu? How many of you came to Ashok Nagar to read Hindu? No, right? You came here to clear this exam. Hindu is a newspaper written for general audience. Now you have to choose those articles which are important from examination point of view. If you just focus on the second page or maybe the sports page, it will not be useful for your preparation. So you have to focus on those articles which are important either for GS paper 1 or GS paper 2 or 3, 4 or maybe your optional paper. But how you will get which article is important for your exam? Provided you have to know the syllabus, you have to by heart that syllabus. Then you can pick up, okay, this article is important because it can be used in internal security or maybe in GS paper 2 or maybe GS paper 3. The same with public administration. So yesterday, based on the articles which appeared in the newspaper, some articles which I picked that are important for public administration. Okay, so the last page is about the 8 articles is about various issues that are very much relevant to public administration. Okay, I thought you people have read the entire paper. So there is yesterday one article in the front page that is about there is an increase in the cases that are reported under UAPA Act, right? What is that UAPA Act? Huh? Loud. Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Now, those activities like terrorist related activities, they will be booked under this act, UAPA Act. So the Union Home Minister, I think the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Kishan Reddy, is giving a reply to the, under this UPA Act, the number of cases increased by 72%. Now, what is the relevance of this particular article from examination point of view? Now, there is a chapter in paper 2 called Law and Order Administration. In Law and Order, we'll be discussing about various laws, various institutions that are very much involved in in protecting the security of the state, right? Now there is a agency which the article was mentioning called National Investigation Agency. Now NIA is the important or apex institution which will investigate cases under UPA Act. Those people who read that article, I think they can recollect what is mentioned in that particular article. Now this agency, NIA, is very much important from examination point of view, from public administration point of view. That is one article. And yesterday the lead article was on lack of gender sensitivity in the institutions of the state. Recently, Chief Justice of India, he made one statement regarding women. What was that? He advised a guy who committed a rape to marry the victim. So the article is all about, it's saying about lack of gender sensitivity or presence of patriarchal notions in the institutions of the state, particularly judiciary. Now, of course, judiciary plays a very important role in administration. If institutions of the state need not be judiciary, any other institution, maybe bureaucracy or maybe legislature or maybe executive, all these are institutions, right? So if there is gender insensitivity of these institutions, what will be the impact on administration? That is one issue which can be asked in public administration. And there is one more important article in yesterday's newspaper that we have various armed police forces. Any example? CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force. You people have to write that exam also, CAPF exam. UPSC conducts that exam. No need for any special preparation. If you are preparing for your civils, you can get through that exam also. If you get through the exam, you will get assistant commandant. Assistant commandant is equivalent to Deputy Superintendent of Police, DSP. So very good exam. You can make an effort, but some physical exercises will be there. It is available for both girls and boys, okay? But age limit is there, 25 years for open category. Very good exam. UPSC conducts it and you have to write that. So the article is all about, there are various central armed police forces. One is CRPF, BSF, Border Security Force. Now, the heads of these organizations were absent. There is a vacancy. That is what the article is mentioning. And there are also other institutions like CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, and other institutions like National Security Guard, NSG, very important institutions. For all these institutions, the head of the institution was, the chief post was vacant. So what is the impact when the head of these institutions is vacant? What is the impact of that on the administration of these institutions? Will it be effective? So what to do? Why there is a vacancy? in these particular institutions. What the UPSC have to do. That is what the article. This question can be directly asked in law and order administration, because we have a topic called Central Paramilitary Forces and Armed Police and even investigative agents. We have a topic there. This is one important issue which we have to quote, and UPSC directly can ask a question on this particular area. These are some important articles yesterday. And there is a district in Telangana, Nirmal district. What was the issue there? Communal violence. Now, actually, yesterday article was reporting there are 2 municipal councillors of this particular area who involved in communal provocations. Now, what is the role a municipal councillor have to do? What is the role? Municipal councillor. To represent that particular area and to do something good for the people who are present in that region. But he is involved in communal provocations. Now, what is the role played by the police in handling that communal situation? What if a communal situation is not handled well? What will happen? Now, Hyderabad is a sensitive area. If there is some communal outburst, what if police are silent? We can sense the the repercussions of it. So, what is the role played by the police in handling that communal clashes? So, we have a topic called public order, law and order, and security of the state. There, this type of issues we can use. And what is the solution, or what is the strategy adopted by the police in this particular district? Yes, internet shutdowns. That is the strategy which they have used. Now, some people questioning that this is not the right strategy. Even in Jammu and Kashmir also the same strategy they have applied. So that can be an issue asked in GS paper 2 as well as in public administration. So this is what linking of current affairs with public administration. If you can do that, not only for public administration, you can do that for polity as well as governance. So when you read, understand this, when you read Hindu newspaper, you just remember that you're reading that article because that article is important for your examination. If you cannot link this article to a syllabus, don't read that article. You're not here to read Hindu newspaper, but you're here to clear this exam. Okay, don't waste some 4 to 5 hours of your time in reading Hindu newspaper and reading unnecessary stuff. How much time you're taking to complete the Hindu newspaper? How much time? Not yet started reading? 2 hours it will take. 2 to 2.5 hours it will take. But it's not a waste of time, please. It's not a waste of time. Actually, it is the most productive thing which you people are doing. Because that one newspaper will be useful for your prelims, for your mains, and also for your interview. So never skip that activity of reading newspaper. So today we'll discuss the syllabus. Okay, what is the syllabus of public administration and what is that we are going to teach, and based on that you can take an informed decision. So what is this subject is all about? Okay, do you have this copy? No? Extra copies, anyone? Do you have the copy? Okay, fine. Just have a glance. There are 12 chapters in paper 1. Okay. Just try to connect with that particular chapter. Try to just read the bold headings of each chapter. Introduction, administrative thought. Try to articulate what could be that. What could be the meaning of that particular chapter. Don't go into the details. The first one is introduction. Second one is administrative thought. Try to make some sense out of that particular term. What could be the administrative thought means? Some ideas which are very much essential that have to be followed in administration. We have a list of thinkers who gave a set of ideas that to be incorporated or that to be followed in administration. Next one is administrative behavior. Because in organizations, Organization is all about people, right? People will be there, part of it. So what is the behavior of these people? How to regulate the behavior? How people take decisions? How communication, how ideas are communicated in the organization? And what are the qualities a leader should have? An IS officer is also a leader, right? At least in that district. So what are the traits a leader should have in an organization? That is what the third chapter, administrative behavior. The fourth chapter is about organizations. So here we have a lot of organizations. For example, companies, we have corporations. Recently, that Vizag issue is there. What for? Steel plant. Those issues will be covered in this particular chapter called organizations. Privatization, okay, disinvestment. In addition to those organizations, we have regulatory commissions. Tell me one regulatory commission which you are aware of. Good. TRAI was there in the news. I think it's there in the news yesterday. TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. RBI is also regulatory body. SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, is also regulatory body. Your engineering education, the body which regulates engineering education, what is that? UGC is AICT, All India Council for Technical Education. UGC is for universities, the general education, okay? All these bodies comes under regulatory bodies, regulatory commissions, okay? So in this particular chapter, what we will be discussing is that why government create a particular organization. Now, why government creates a company? Why government creates a department? Example of a department? Department of Railways, one example. Why government go for a corporation? Is there any difference? There is a difference. When government go for a corporation, the purpose is different. When government go for a department, the way department functions and the role which a department have to perform will be different. So we'll be discussing that. And what is a board? What is a commission? Union Public Service Commission, UPSC. Why that commission word is used? We can call it UPSC board, Union Public Service Board, but we don't call that. We call it as a commission. There is a meaning behind that. Railway board, we don't call it as railway commission because board has some significance. So why a particular organization is created? What is the purpose of it? What are the functions they have to perform? And what is the constitution of that particular body? Right? That is also we'll be discussing as part of the fourth chapter, organizations. Okay. What is the fifth chapter? Accountability and control. Yesterday, some person gave me answer. Accountability means answerability. Right? Every organization of the state, it can be legislature, it can be executive, it can be judiciary, or an IAS officer or an IPS officer, or bureaucracy. Every institution of the state is accountable, is answerable to whom? To the people. Why? Because we are a democratic country and people are sovereign. The entire power is vested with the people. So you cannot say, I am an IAS officer, why should I be accountable to you? You have to be, because the power and authority people delegate to the institutions. I'll be explaining what is delegation and all those things. But every institution, it can be prime minister or it can be a bureaucracy, they derive the authority and power from the people. But generally we don't think so, right? We always think an IAS officer is so powerful, chief minister is so powerful, prime minister is so powerful. But their authority and power, they got it from the people of this country. That is what democracy is all about. So every institution have to be accountable, right? And how that accountability is being enforced. Who are the institutions? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders enforces accountability on part of government institutions? For example, media is there. Media is an institution. Will media plays any role in enforcing accountability? or in making administration answerable? Yes or no? Yes. There is a civil society, Anna Hazare movement. I think some people might be aware of it. Now, civil society, I'll be defining what is civil society, what is a voluntary association. I'm not going to the technical details, but just on the surface level, I'm trying to discuss. Now, will the civil society have any role to play in enforcing accountability? They too have a very important role in making the government accountable. Right to Information Act, Lokpal and Lok Yukta Act, Citizen Charter related bills, social audit. I'll be defining what are these terms. All these are outcomes of civil society movements in this country. Lokpal and Lok Yukta is to deal with Lokpal and Lok Yukta. Anywhere, anytime you heard about it, don't get confused, because we'll be discussing what is civil society, what are those movements and everything. To deal with corruption. Even if a prime minister, even if he does corruption, he'll be coming under the jurisdiction of a Lokpal and Lok Yukta. No one is exempted from Lokpal and Lok Yukta, even an IAS officer. Okay. What is corruption? Illegal gratification. As in a layman terms, it is some kind of bribe, but that meaning is so broad, which we'll be defining later. So that is one chapter, accountability and control. What is the next chapter? Administrative law. This is the most technical topic out of all the 12 chapters. There is one concept called rule of law. Have you heard that? Rule of law. What is that? Everyone is equal before the law. Now, suppose you got selected in the civil service examination. Now you got some 15th or 20th rank issue. So you thought that you will be getting a good service, IAS, because you are in the top list. But some person who got some 30, 40 rank and who do not deserve for that particular position, he was given the IAS. Now, how can you deal with this? Whether can you approach courts? Can you approach courts? You can approach an institution called as tribunal. So for all service related matters, for an IAS officer or for an IPS officer, you can go and approach a tribunal. What is the difference between a tribunal and court? We'll be discussing. There are two institutions. One is court. I think you know what, Supreme Court, High Court and all these things. On the other side, we have tribunals. Okay. These tribunals also have an important role in judicial matters. Okay. So, for example, an IAS officer, if he have some grievance or if he have some issue regarding a service related matter, maybe regarding promotion or maybe regarding some salaries or other issues, he can approach this tribunal, right? Now, one person mentioned about TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Appellate Authority, okay, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Now, take this Reliance Jio. Now, if he has a problem, if Reliance guy has a problem with the orders given by TRAI, where he will go? Where he'll go? Again, he'll go to a tribunal first. If he's not satisfied with the order given by a tribunal, then he'll go to the court. Now, why he has to go to a tribunal? Listen here. See, courts may not have the expertise in all the matters. Yes or no? In telecommunication related matters, some expertise is needed. Some expertise is needed. Some technical information with respect to telecommunication sector, it's needed. The Supreme Court may not be in position to really have that much of expertise knowledge. So if you have, or if you create an institution called a tribunal, which deals with a particular subject, now people can approach that institution and they can solve the issue there. Now we have institution like National Green Tribunal. Have you heard that? NGT. What is that institution? Regarding environmental related disputes, this is a specialized institution which can effectively deal with environmental related aspects. Now, those institutions like tribunal will come under the topic called administrative law. Administrative law means, see, there are some functions which the state government perform, or there are certain institutions which are involved in some specialized functions. Now, the ordinary courts may not have the expertise to deal with the specialized functions, right? Now, how many are from BA? BA. Now, if I ask you a question regarding how nanotechnology operates, you may not have, at this point of time, you may not have the specialized knowledge on nanotechnology. But if I ask you your BA subject, you'll be having more knowledge. Similarly, the Supreme Court judicial person, they may have legal expertise, but they may not have the technical expertise needed for that particular subject regarding environmental related matters or maybe administrative related matters. So to deal with those issues, these tribunals are there and they apply a different law. That law is called administrative law. Okay, to handle, or to put it in simple terms, to enable the government to deal with some specialized functions, we need an institution. That institution is tribunal. Okay, this is first thing, comes under administrative law. Now I think most of you are aware of pandemic, right? Now pandemic, we don't have any legislature at center or state level, no parliamentary proceedings, right? But how the government handled it? How the government handled it? There is no legislature that time. Legislature is not in session, either parliament or state legislature. But how government have handled? By police. But what is the authority government have to handle those things? Some law should be there, right, which will give authority. There are two acts I think most of you have heard. One is Disaster Management Act and the other one is Epidemics Diseases Act, Epidemics Act. These two acts were used to control the pandemic by the government. Okay, now see, government cannot take any decision without the support of a law. It cannot just do it on its own. There should be some legal support, some law that has to support. But during pandemics, there was no parliament. And corona just is a novel virus. We never had a history of dealing with corona. So how to handle those pandemic situations? And do you know that in this pandemic era, in this pandemic time for the 7 or 8 months, the government, the central government issued some 18 to 19 guidelines. And how they can do that? Because of a concept called delegated legislation. That concept is there in your topic called administrative law, and we'll be discussing what is this delegated legislation. But as of now, you just try to confine it. Delegated legislation is something comes under administrative law. And why that is needed? What is the use of it? See, every time parliament will not be in a session and administration is so dynamic. For example, disasters. The IAS officers, everyone should be very alert. Now, if you wait for parliament to pass a law or to give power, what happens to the disaster management there? Surely the administration will not be in a better position to handle these disasters. So every time you cannot go to the legislature or to the state, a parliament or state legislature to make acts. So to address that, in our governance or in our country, there is a concept called delegated legislation. It means that, now let me ask you a question. What is the function of legislature? What is the function of legislature? To make laws. What is the function of executive? To implement those laws. What is the function of judiciary? To check the validity of those laws. Okay, constitutional validity of those laws. Now, delegated legislation means the legislature whose primary function is to make the laws, it is delegating that power to the executive. Now you can make laws. So under Disaster Management Act, the government of India is empowered to issue various guidelines. No need to go for parliament now. Because of that particular power which the central government have, almost they have released 18 or 19 guidelines. Okay. Now, of course, there was a lockdown. If you violate the lockdown, is there any punishment? Is there any punishment? Right? Who empowered government to enforce that punishment? Under Epidemics Disease Act, the central government or the state government can enforce guidelines, and if someone violates that, they can punish. Without legal backing, government cannot do anything. Some legal backup is needed, and that legal backup is, of course, various laws passed by the parliament. Now, under the delegated legislation, that authority is delegated to the executive. They can issue guidelines, they can issue some laws, they can issue some rules. That is one concept which comes under administrative law. So some political, some polity understanding in your GS. I think right now most of you do not have any polity understanding. Polity started for you in a GS. Started. What is the topic? Fundamental. Please be loud. Fundamental. Why do we have to? Why should we have fundamental rights? We'll be discussing that also in administration. Why should we have fundamental rights? Amma concept chala important. Information is not important in your civils. Why do we need a fundamental right? What is fundamental in fundamental rights? They are basic rights. My basic rights and pair pettachuga. Good, correct. They are fundamental for human existence. If they are not there, human existence also can be compromised with. Okay, right to life. Right? Now, can an administrator, maybe an IAS officer or an IPS officer, can he violate fundamental rights of the citizen? No. And administration have to make sure that fundamental rights are properly enforced. You cannot play with the rights of the citizens. You cannot violate their rights. So entire administration, it can be bureaucracy or maybe other institution, any other institution. So fundamental rights are very much important, that to be followed by every organization of the state. Okay. So polity understanding is very much important, but of course in paper 2 we'll be discussing those topics. What is the next chapter? I'm a little bit faster because I have only 1 hour of time. Okay, and just I have to brush up the entire syllabus. What you understood by the term comparative public administration? It's common sense, right? Comparison of administrative systems, right? So in that particular chapter, administrative systems that are present in developing countries like India, administrative systems that are present in developed countries like United States of America, and administrative systems that are present in less developed countries, they are compared. Why Indian administration is like this? He'll come with a reason. Why administrative systems in United States of America, they're functioning so effectively? Why they are able to do it? Why not Indian administration is not able to do these things? There are a lot many issues with Indian administration. Corruption is there. If Indian administration is so powerful, why still we have poverty? Why we have undernutrition? Why we have many children suffering with malnutrition? Why the education of this country is this much of poor quality? What is the health status of this country? During pandemics, if there is no access to government hospital because it's almost flooded, and how many people could afford to go to a private hospital? For one day they charge some 40,000, 50,000 or lakhs. So why the health situation of this country is like this? Why the administration failed? It's the failure of administration, right? Who else failed it? It is the failure of administration. How many of you, when you have a health issue, will go to a government hospital? Or how many of you went to a government hospital? Not for certificates or some attestation, just for treatment. Why? What for? How many of you studied in government schools? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Good. At least 5 hands raised. Now, I think you people know about PDS system, public distribution system. What is the quality of food grains? How many of you consume those food grains which you get under PDS system? How many of you consume those rice, those oil, that oil, rice, and every other food grains given by PDS system? No? Whose failure is this? It is a failure of the administrative system. And why administrative system is like this in this country? Why administrative system is characterized by corruption? There is a term called nepotism. What is that? Family members, priority to our family members. Okay. Is there any nepotism in government institutions or government functioning? Yes, it is there. It is there. Today, what is the problem with this public administration is that the people who do not have money, the people who do not have power, they are not even considered as a human beings. They cannot influence the government. And just be honest, how many of your parents told you that maintain contacts with those people who are successful in their lives? Maybe your friends, or maybe someone who's settled or doing good jobs. Please try to maintain those contacts. Be honest to your heart. Don't raise hands, right? But why society is like that? Why you want support of those person who is already settled or who is successful? You're just an individual human being, right? Why you want the support of other person? That is mild form of nepotism. In administration also, nepotism happens, or nepotism is present to a larger extent. A normal person going to a district collectorate office, getting a certificate without any influence is not such an easy task. And why Indian administration is like that? What are the factors? Those things will be dealt in the comparative public administration by looking into various administrative systems. Okay. There is a guy called F.W. Ricks who developed this particular theory called what I can call prismatic theory. What is prism? Have you know about something? Do you know about prism? Prism. Physics students, or maybe in school also, I think you people have that, right? Can we write it here? This one. Acha, acha. Nah. Can we write? Oh, good. What is this? White light, when it passes through a prism, it will be what I call diffracted into various colors, right? Okay. F.W. Ricks used this concept to understand various administrative systems, and how he applies this concept we'll be discussing. But he uses this theory called prismatic theory to understand various administrative systems across the world. Next topic. What is that development dynamics? What is development? Now I think 28 to 30 people are there. Everyone will have a different version of development, right? For some people, having 5-6 cars, having 5-6 wives, maybe development. For but this is what development. But for some people, being happy is a development. For some people, being empowered is development, right? So there are a lot of ways to define development. The scheduled tribes of this country may have a different versions towards development. An urban guy, a person living in urban area, for him development is different. And a person living in rural area, for him development can be a different thing. So there are multiple versions to define this term called development. And a government should accommodate all these differences. It should not enforce development by by affecting the lives of other people. Government can construct a dam, but because of the dam, many tribals lost their livelihoods. Is it a development? Is it a development? So development needs to be inclusive. It has to take the interests, the priorities of each and every section of this society. What is development to women? Meeku same ena andarlage untadi development ante. There is a topic in it, gender and development. You can see there, gender and development. Women and development. Women and development. It is being argued that women are the excluded sections in the path of development. It is argued in that women are excluded from the path of development. For them, development is about having their perception toward development is different. Maybe, for example, empowerment, having having freedom over their bodily choices, and having freedom what to wear, what not to wear. So there should not be any sort of restriction on their movements. Maybe this is in that particular chapter it is being defined. So the expectations of women, or maybe their perceptions toward development is different, and the government also have to take that into consideration. Yesterday's article, gender insensitivity in the institutions of the state. Now you cannot ask a woman why you went there. Because you went there, this particular incident happened. Because you have dressed in such a way, in a different manner, so this particular crime happened. Is it a right way of arguing? Yes or no? Doesn't Japan put? Yes or no? But most of the time, these are the arguments which we often hear. A particular mistake happened because of the behavior of that particular woman. Yes or no? These are called as patriarchal notions. And an administration or the administrators who are part of the administration, if they have the patriarchal notions, what will be the impact on the society? What is patriarchy? Huh? What do you do? Male domination is, it need not be a father, anyone. Male domination is male domination. Do you think male domination is there? Huh? It is there. Now how to address that? చంపేద్దాం వాళ్ళందరినీ, అందులో నేను ఉంటానండి, చంపేద్దాం. So that is what word looks so simple, called gender sensitivity, but if it is being implemented seriously, the implications of it will be much wider. Okay, now we know how, for example, take this organization called police. During sexual harassment related cases, when police interact with the victim, the way they deal, the way they interact, it is so problematic. Now how to handle those things, and what is the freedom a woman have in organizations? whether their decisions are respected or not, whether the opinion given by women is respected, whether it is taken seriously or not. How many of you agree that even in your families we can see that, right? We can see that. How many times a decision given by a woman is taken seriously? So how to address that? So what are the mechanisms we have to incorporate? Those areas, those dimensions will be covered in that particular in the chapter called Women and Development. Okay. We also discuss there feminism, feminist movements also. What is feminism? Huh? What is feminism? Equality of men and women. Okay. Good. Equality of men and fighting for the rights of women. Okay. Empowerment of women. What is women empowerment? What is women empowerment? Most of the times, we come across this word women empowerment. What is women empowerment? I think recently there was a movie called Jati Ratnalu. There was in a trailer, Woman Emporium. It's not Woman Emporium, it's Woman Empowerment. Ladies Emporium, something, right? What is empowerment? Having equal opportunities. So, if you are given equal opportunities, do you think that is empowerment? What else? Part of empowerment. What this lady was saying was true. Equal treatment in all matters. Okay. Now, things here we'll discuss there. Things like there are two things, boss, in this society. One is no one will love the other person who is independent in the decisions. Okay. For example, maybe in our families or maybe in our society, people say you good because you blindly follow them. Whatever they say, you agree with that. Then they'll give you a tag called good. But if you say, no, I will not do that because I didn't like that, what they'll say? You're maybe a bad person or maybe a rebel type of guy, right? So those notions which society gave, see, society has defined certain notions, boss. Manchamayanti Vondali, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good boy means there should be 5 or 6 notions. Okay. Now we'll be trying to unravel those notions. To what extent they are genuine or to what extent they are very much rational. Those notions we'll be addressing in this particular topic. What is the difference between sex and gender? These two terms, we most often use. What is the difference between those two, sex and gender? Sex is a biological term. Gender is a social term. What does that mean? Good, correct. It's correct. But what is that? Categorizing men and women on their body structure is again a biological thing, right? That is sex. But gender means social construction. Good. Means women can do only these roles. Men can do these roles. This is called social construction. This is called social construction. Women cannot lead an organization, or maybe it's a male terrain to lead organization, or maybe to become a leader, political leader. Is that true? Now we have this government, BJP government at center. Most chief ministers, I don't know, they know sometimes they're not very firm. But there is a lady. Who is that lady? One chief minister, Mamata Banerjee. She is very much firm. And even in front of Prime Minister, she told, I will not address this gathering because you people raised Jai Shri Ram slogan, and she didn't spoke about it and she left. Before Prime Minister was there on the dais. She is very firm. She is very assertive. What about, of course, she is not there, Jayalalitha. She is also very much assertive. Okay. Once there was an humiliation on this lady in in the state legislature. Then she promised, I will not enter the state legislature until I become a chief minister of this particular state. And after she became chief minister, then only she entered into that particular state legislature. So that is what assertiveness and firmness. So this social construction which is there in the society, will be trying to unravel those social notions in this particular chapter called Women and Administration. And what is the next topic? Personal administration is all about you, how you people are recruited, what is the examination through which you know, the prelims, mains and civils examination, what are the issues in this examination. Do you think this examination is so good? Why it is taking 1 year for the UPSC to conduct this exam? And after you get selected in your what you call interview, you'll go to your Labasna. Labasna means this thing. Okay, fine. What is the institute there in Hyderabad for police, IPS? Oh, good. So what is the training module they give in this particular institute, both at Labasna, both at for IPS, IAS and other services? What are the issues with the training module? And once you enter into the system, what's your promotion, your career advancement? What are the issues? And if you do or action in the service, what are the disciplinary measures? Okay, those things we'll try to discuss in that particular chapter called personal administration. Okay, very important chapter. What is the next? Public policy. Very important topic. What is policy? Tell me 1 or 2 policies which you are aware of. Midday meals is a scheme. Monetary policy, fine. Next. Foreign policy. Next. That is also a policy, right? Next. Recently there was a policy, right? National education policy, national health policy. So it is basically what the government wants to do. Policy is nothing but what the government wants to do for health sector. Okay. Now in that chapter called public policy, we'll be discussing how a policy is formulated. Who are the stakeholders involved in policy formulation? I think you know what is policy formulation, how a policy is made. Once a policy is formulated, it has to be implemented, right? Who are the stakeholders involved in implementation of the policy? Who is the main stakeholder? Bureaucracy is the main stakeholder involved in implementation of a public policy. Now after implementation, what is next? Monitoring and evaluation of that particular policy. And who are the stakeholders and how a policy is evaluated? For example, this lady was mentioning about a midday meal scheme. Assume that midday meal scheme. Now, what is that midday meal scheme? Providing? Okay. Now, what is the quality of food that is being served in this midday meal? What is the quality of food that is being served? Is it good? Now, understand this. According to various research reports, the first 5 years, maybe the school going children, 5, 6, 7 years, the cognitive development is very much important. If the cognitive development do not happen at this stage, surely he cannot become a productive resource. And to achieve that cognitive growth, or to ensure that cognitive growth, proper nutrition is needed. There are many families in this country who cannot afford a quality meal to their children. Many households, many families are there. Now this beautiful scheme, midday meal scheme, will provide education, at the same time quality nutritious meal. Okay, but see how government is implementing, how the scheme is functioning. They have to give a dal, in place of that they'll give yellowish water. They have to give some protein related food, egg like, that is not being provided. And other things like maybe Jagan Mohan Reddy started with a good schedule, every day one particular meal. That is a really good thing, but how it is being implemented? So even a basic scheme like midday meal, if it is not being implemented, what is the use of this thing called administration? What these people are doing then? Hmm? Now we have thousands of IAS officers, thousands of IPS, thousands of government officials, but a single very basic scheme like midday meal, it is also not being implemented. And do you know that in a district in Uttar Pradesh, I think 1.5 years back, they stored oil that is being used for midday meals. They stored in a what do you call, in a pesticide tank, and they used that oil. Many children died because of that particular oil usage. And in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, the food grains that is being used to cook food, they are what you called, of course they are not stored properly and they got spoiled, and this particular food grains is being used in the midday meals program. So just see, almost we got independence in 1947 and we are discussing these incidents in 2020 and 2021. So what we have achieved, how administration was successful, and why these issues are happening. Every civil aspirant is very serious, very committed that he wants to become a honest and committed civil servant. But why this is happening? Where is the issue? What is the issue real? What is the real issue? Why even a small things which we cannot achieve? Now, how many districts in this country getting quality water? Quality water. There are many districts in this country where people have to travel 1, 2, 3 kilometers to fetch normal water, not quality water, just normal water. Even districts like Nalgonda, and there is an issue, Uddanam issue. These are again related to poor water quality. Recently, the government have launched Jal Jeevan Mission. Under this Jal Jeevan Mission, the government is planning to provide quality drinking water to every household by 2024. Still four more years there. Means then what we have achieved in the last 70 years of independence. Whose failure is that? Whose failure is that? So public policies will give us a solution. Maybe it'll try to address some issues related to this. Why a particular policy is not being implemented? Now we have things like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, very great schemes for education. But what is the quality of education that is being delivered? And why it's not being delivered properly? I'll tell you about BTech, because Manda Ade Kolanga Patti. So what is the issue is, see, when you enter into the system, if you're not responsible, these things will come into picture. Now, when I was school going, maybe 2005, 2004, that time an engineer used to have a lot of reputation in the society. They were engineer. But now what happened, you know, an engineer is not even getting 3,000, 4,000 for a job. Even 3,000, 4,000, he's working for 3,000, 4,000, and even in certain cases, he's not getting that money. And why this particular system happened for engineering education? More number of engineers. So what is the issue? Because we need engineers. We need engineers. That is what I say. No, when an institution fails, the repercussions will have, you know, it will have a wider repercussions on the coming generations. Now today, BTech guys became a laughing stock. Yes, I really mean, right? Why that happened? What this All India Council of Technical Education is doing, when every politician started a college without following a basic standards, what this institution is doing there? Many politicians, they have their college, right? I think most of you who studied BTech, you know, your college will be, your college belongs to some particular politician. Why only politicians have established colleges, engineering colleges? Because of the love they have towards education. Many engineering colleges in this state, particularly Andhra, Telangana, and even to a certain extent Tamil Nadu, the students in those engineering colleges, they never heard a term called campus placement. They don't know the meaning of the term called campus placement. Means no one came to recruit them. So when an institution called All India Council of Technical Education fails, the impact it created on the engineers, of course, it's very hard to to rebring the glory of engineering. It's not such an easy task. Next, Medical Council of India. Now the name got changed. Now, for a post-graduation, I think you know what is post-graduation, right? For a post-graduation in general medicine, a student has to pay some 50, 60 or 70 lakhs minimum amount. Now, a student who paid 50 or 70 lakhs for his completion, for his course completion, will he work in a rural area or maybe a second town, two-tier town, or will he work in an urban area? Because he has to get the money of 50, 60 lakhs at least in 2-3 years, right? Now, why the health is so costly? Because of these reasons. If Medical Council of India was so successful in regulating the quality of medical education, maybe this could not have happened. Now, during pandemic, when everyone is really facing issues, what is the guts the private hospitals had to charge 1 lakh per day? Because they believed government cannot do anything, right? They charge 25,000, 35,000 lakh, 1 lakh per day. And they used to take advance also. And who failed? What is the administration doing then? So those things will be part of public policy, because public policy is very much important thing, and you will be part of that. Either you will be part of policy formulation or maybe policy implementation, because your duty is that, because you're entering into the system either to formulate a policy or to implement a policy. So you have to be so cautious, because one mistake will have an impact on coming generations. YS Rajshekar Reddy have done a good thing for engineering students by giving a fee reimbursement. More supply, less demand. What is the impact? The quality of education completely got deteriorated. So you have to be so cautious in understanding that particular chapter called public policy. What is the next chapter? Techniques of administrative improvement. So administrative needs to be improved based on the needs, based on the situations, right? Now, how many of you have Arogya Setu app? Arogya Setu app. Have you heard about it? Right? What for that? What is the purpose of that app? How many of you have Facebook? Right? Maybe because you came to civils, I think some people deactivate Facebook, but most of you will have Facebook. Now, there is a topic called e-governance. E-governance means the government will provide goods and services through electronic means, right? Arogya Setu app is an example for it, right? There are a lot many things which the government is doing right now through electronic means. Maybe land documentation. I think maybe some of you applied for UPSC, right? This time. Applied for UPSC? No? Will you submit an application or you do it in online? Online? That is because of electronic governance. So electronic governance simply means it is a delivery of goods and services through using of computer networks or some other electronic means. And what will be the impact of that on the administration? Will it increase efficiency? Right? Will it be effective? Those things we'll be discussing there. What is the theory behind e-governance and why e-governance is being implemented? What are the implications of it, and what are the initiatives taken by the government regarding promotion of e-governance? Okay. What is the last chapter? Financial administration. That is all about monetary policy. I think maybe some of you know about monetary policy. What is the monetary policy definition? What is monetary policy? A policy that is monetary in nature. Adi kaakunda inkedana undu cheppandi, please. Good. To regulate the supply of money in the market or in the economy. Who will be doing that? RBI. What is the opposite of it? What is the other thing? Fiscal policy. What is fiscal policy? Okay, government policies, fine. National health policy is also government policy. Can I call it as a fiscal policy? Okay, you have done it. You told it in a very broad sense, but okay. But still, Please be specific to it. What is fiscal policy? Good. Fiscal policy means how the government raises the resources or the revenues and how it spends those resources. So it deals with taxes and expenditure. Okay, how government mobilizes the resources. It can be income tax or GST or any other tax, and how those resources which are mobilized, how it will be spending on various what you call various expenditures. It can be health expenditure or developmental expenditure or expenditure on agriculture. It can be what the priority of government can vary. Okay, budget, economic survey, these things are important. Here we'll be discussing that. And that person is saying loans. Most of the times the government may not have the revenues, adequate amount of revenues. So what to do? Going for loans, borrowings. But you cannot just borrow the way you want. There is a limit for it. That limit is decided by FRBM Act. Fiscal Responsibility Budgetary Management, FRBM Act is there. We'll be discussing that. Okay. Now the continuation is, there is an auditing institutions like Comptroller and Auditor General of India. What is the role played by CAG? There is one more institution called CGA, Comptroller General of Accounts, CGA. They have an important role to play in financial administration. So can this government will be viable? Can a government govern this country without proper financial resources or without adequate financial resources? So what are the principles that to be followed in financial administration? This is what the first paper 1 is all about. Okay, a brief review. There are some topics which are overlapping in paper 2. Okay, any doubts? Okay, no, I'm a little bit fast because I have to finish at least the basics so that you will take an informed decision whether to be in this subject or not. Okay, there is no other motive. So at least you should be aware, okay, this is what public administration paper 1 is. So once again, you can go through the syllabus. Then if you can connect with it, then you can opt for this syllabus. If you don't have interest, please draw from this option. Okay, it's not like a marketing strategy because your life is at stake. So then if even 5-10 students are there, we can handle it, but you have to think twice. Okay, but this is what the paper 1. Just I was a little bit quicker, little bit fast. For those people who haven't done with quality, it's a little bit difficult to understand certain things, but we'll go into detail once we start our public administration classes from Monday. Tomorrow we'll be discussing the paper 2, Indian administration. Now, and also we'll try to link with some current affairs which comes on today's paper. Any doubts? No? Thank you.